Hello, everyone, and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
And can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, Om
Yes,
Shanti.
So,
yes, Om Shanti.
and good golden afternoon to everyone attending to this afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to our Saturday Insightful Dialogue series on Zoom in Los Angeles and everywhere else in the world. Um, Hope you are feeling well, healthy, and ready to hear ways to revive our higher consciousness, and not to create it, but to revive it. That is good news. I think that the topic implies that reviving is what is in order, and that the consciousness is already there. So it is great that you have decided to join us, for this captivating conversation on how to awaken and expand our consciousness in such mm, trying and uncertain times, right? Our special speaker for this insightful dialogue is BK Tyrone Jackson. And Tyrone, has been a student of the Brahma Kumaris for over 17 years, and a teacher of the Brahma Kumaris, for over 6 years. And he has been working, in the healthcare as a healthcare professional in the field of the nursing home industry, working primarily with residents dealing with Alzheimer's for the past 15 something years. And then he started developing his own practice as a life coach and a spiritual coach, for personal growth, and also the Reiki master practitioner, right?
Yes.
And also, of course, spiritual teacher, for the Raja Yoga teaching, and spiritual teaching in general. But more importantly, in that all the things that we're sharing, with all the statistics and the years and the titles and everything, I've known Brother Tyrone, for over 17 years, and yeah, and I haven't seen him now since, let's say, since 2010. Like, oh wow, how fast time flies.
Yes. Yes.
you know, yet what I remember was this soul coming to class full of love for truth, for God, and love for self knowing. And he always expressed to me, through his thought process, his words, his vibrations, that he has full respect for humanity, starting by full respect for himself, as well as for anyone that comes in front of him. I always saw his consistency in his spiritual endeavor, in his spiritual journey, spiritual effort making, and always had deep conversations with him. Every time we had a conversation, it was always, it went down to the depth. And every time I felt inspired by him. So without taking any more of this, precious time, I like to present this opportunity that you also, you might get inspired by what this brother has to share with us this afternoon slash this evening. Brother Tyrone, welcome.
Thank you, Sister Lisa. I am so happy to be here. Where I am, it's after 8 o'clock. I'm in Rhode Island. It's nice to be on the East Coast and the West Coast at the same time. And that's quite interesting because we can see that how technology has been developed, that even with technology, we expand our consciousness. we can be on both coasts at the same time. So the real topic, the underlying topic that I will be sharing and speaking with you and having conversation with you about is really consciousness and really understanding deeply what consciousness is. One of the first questions I would put out there for you just to consider, how much time have you given to thinking about what consciousness is and how you use consciousness in your everyday life? Because consciousness is really the cornerstone of our ability to really exist in the world, and also consciousness is what forms our reality. So I'm going to start off with using a PowerPoint presentation because it'll give us a greater sense and I'll have something to work off. I'll probably bounce a lot of questions off the audience. If you like to speak up at any time, please do so. So let's see here. So what we're talking about is reviving or retrieving. I just want to lower this. There we go. Reviving a higher consciousness, which really tells us initially that we have to recognize what consciousness is. Without having a sense of what consciousness is, it makes it extremely difficult to retrieve it, to revive it, to experience the unlimited nature of it. For the most part, as human beings, we tend to live within a very small section of consciousness because we're not aware of how large consciousness is, or one can even say is how unlimited consciousness is. So this is going to be kind of like a tour within consciousness. We're going to kind of map up what consciousness is and how we can recognize our levels of consciousness, because there are several different levels of consciousness, which allows us to experience reality. So one can even say that our reality is made up of our consciousness. So the more conscious we are of consciousness, the more aware we are of consciousness, the more we are able to empower ourselves within our reality. The less we're aware of our consciousness, the less we're able to empower ourselves in our reality. And the reason I say that, when we're not fully aware of consciousness, we allow reality to take our power, or even more correctly, it is we give the power to reality. We let the things that are external on the outside of us, the things we experience every day, to give us power, or we look for those things to make us feel better about ourselves, about life. Yet that consciousness doesn't really work that way. Consciousness is this beautiful energy that's looking to evolve, it's looking to grow, it's looking to become more knowledgeable and to expand its sense of awareness so it can bring benefit to itself and to those people around. So, which one are you? Are you the pad, the pen, the hand, or the space it's happening in? Anyone care to speak up and say which one they are? No responses?
I think I'm the pen,
Okay.
or maybe the space.
I
Good
think
question.
I think the space is happening in.
Okay. It's so when you say that you're the space that it's happening in, it means that everything that's happening in that space, is that you also? Or is it a part
that
of
I'm
your
going
conscious,
to that I'm going to be.
or is it a part of your consciousness?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
therefore, whatever we perceive or whatever experience we're having in life is actually a part of our consciousness. Although it's outside of us, it's a part of us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So therefore, it's important to understand our relationship with all the things that come, all the things and experiences that we're having in life, because all the things, people, places, circumstances, situations, and things are an aspect of our consciousness coming to tell us a story so that we can grow. So it's our relationship with it. So if we are this space where the hand is writing something on the pad, we are also a part of the consciousness of what's being written on the pad. And all those things are reflecting back to us where we are in our consciousness. So when we are reviving and retrieving our consciousness, we allow ourselves to read beyond the experience. We go deeper than the surface of the experience, and we draw from our experience what consciousness is telling us so we can expand our understanding of life. And at any point, Sneha, I can't really see people. If anyone has a question, they can raise their hand and perhaps you can call on them or someone could speak up so I can make sure everyone.
Sure, we can do that. And also there's a chat box. If anyone has any questions, they can put it in that.
Okay. So far, so good. So what we're doing initially, we're jumping right in. We're saying, perhaps I've been living my life in a limited way because all the things that I'm perceiving in my life, some I like, some I don't like, some I want to hold on to, some I want to push away. So are we actually using consciousness or are we becoming reactive to what consciousness is displaying to us? So when we are reviving consciousness, we allow whatever is happening to happen. And we, from a more aware state, we withdraw from the experience, the growth, and we let the rest go. We move out of reactive and we become responsive. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is the foundation of our lives, as it is the underlying aspect of the entire construction of the reality we live. That's quite an interesting statement. It's the underlying aspect of the entire construction of the reality we live. So everything that we see, smell, eat, taste, experience is an aspect of consciousness. It exists through consciousness. And if it's in our life, there is a connection between who we are consciously and what is in our life. And that's based on our belief systems, primary our belief systems. So our belief systems, therefore, will create a narrative by which we will determine what we're experiencing is. So we might say, oh, this is good, or we might say this is bad, but someone else may come along and say, no, 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 that's good and that's bad. Yet it's the same item or the same food, but it's held differently in consciousness because we create a program based on an experience that then we label the situation, our circumstance, our person, our thing. So far, so good? Any questions so far? I guess that means everyone is with me.
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
So all the things in our life are an aspect of our consciousness. So I'll kind of expand it a bit. All the things in our life is an aspect of our consciousness. The way we perceive it is based on our belief system, which is a program. Our programs are based on where we were born, to who we were born, what stories we believe in, what experiences we've had. All those things create a program in our mind. And that program, then we project into reality. And that projection determines if we like it or we don't like it, if we think it's good or we think it's bad. Everyone has their separate programming, But the more we revive our consciousness, we remove the program and we start seeing things for what they are. So when we're talking about reviving our consciousness to a higher consciousness, it's really about going above the programming. It's about going beyond our perception of reality and then seeing reality for what it is. And we can also relate this to karma. Karma is something that creates a belief system or a program that determines how we see things also. So, questions here. What is consciousness? Is it my body? Is it my brain? Is it my mind?
No.
Is it my thoughts? Or is it my emotions or feelings? From where does the thought of my come from? So if we're saying my body, what is the my that's saying my body?
Your
What
higher
is the,
self,
Your
My
soul.
mind.
Soul.
your soul, your higher self.
so soul is consciousness. Soul is the aspect of ourselves that is fully aware. So the breath of consciousness or the breath of the awareness of the soul is truly based on how much it's aware of how the body is used and how the body creates signals that consciousness can respond to. So if you have something going on in your gut, consciousness might say, oh, my gut is telling me I need to be aware of something. If you have a thought going across your mind, consciousness is not going to say, oh, I am this thought. Consciousness will say, this thought is with me. What is this thought presenting? And how truthful is this thought? Or is this thought based on what I'm feeling? So what I'm hoping you're beginning to see is we don't want to get caught up in being the body. So, we say, oh, my leg hurts, right? My leg hurt. I am not hurting. My leg is hurting. So how can I become aware that I am not the pain?
It's basically, well, my interpretation is you're basically the observer. So your soul is observing that through the eyes. So like you said, the body is the physical entity. So you are observing the pain from the soul perspective.
Yes.
So you have to be a soul conscious for that?
Soul conscious, it's so interesting. Let's look at those two terms, soul conscious and body conscious. So when we use those two terms, what are we actually saying? When we're saying soul conscious, we're saying I'm conscious of life through being the soul. So it means I am standing above. I have a view above what the body is going through. I have a view above what the body's going through. I have a view above the function of the brain. I have a view above the territory of the mind. And I said that specifically that way, the territory of the mind, which means we house certain elements, thoughts, experiences in our mind, and then the thoughts that run through the mind. So all those things are like me watching a television. They're not who I am. They're the record of my experiences. So when we're in soul conscious, we're not believing these things are us, and we're not believing these things have control over us.
Oh,
So far, so good?
So,
no.
is it like a witness without being judgmental?
If we're judgmental, the concern about being judgmental is, are we doing it from being the body and we're being judgmental based on a program? So if we were hurt by a particular person in the past, we have a program that says, I don't like that person. That's body consciousness. So when we see that person, we project automatically that that person is no good. But that person may be a very nice person, but we have a misconception based on one experience. So to really revive our consciousness is say, oh, I have this experience, I'm having this feeling, but I have to know if this feeling is true, or am I just in reaction to the way it makes me feel? So I'm reacting to the emotions, not necessarily the truth, but I'm reacting to the emotions. So where is the power? Is the power in consciousness, or is the power in our emotions when we're focusing or reacting to an individual based on the way we feel? Do you follow where I'm going with this?
Consciousness. Yeah.
Right. So if the more conscious we are, we're going to question our emotions, or even move our emotions out of the way so we can clarify the experience we had. We can look back and say, oh, I know why I'm feeling that way, because I had that experience and they said something to me that I didn't like. So I have an emotional attachment to not liking them. I'll say that again. I have an emotional attachment to not liking them because I'm holding on to the past. When we are reviving consciousness, we don't hold on to the past. We can use the past to withdraw elements from our experience, but we don't hold on to the past to be judgment for the present, because then we're not knowledgeable. We become a prisoner of the past, and we're giving our power to an experience of the past and not allowing ourselves to evolve ourselves to create new experiences in the present. So there are certain things we're talking about here. How aware am I of my body? And when it feels a certain way, it's telling me something. So if my stomach is getting jittery, I might say I'm getting nervous. Now I need to figure out why I'm getting nervous so I can learn to go beyond that nervousness. If I find that I have certain thoughts, so when I'm in certain situations, those thoughts are overwhelming me, and I have to realize I have to delete these thoughts and place new thoughts, because these thoughts are limiting my consciousness. They're keeping me small. Normally, if thoughts keep occurring, that's preventing us from moving forward, they're thoughts from the past. So we're not reviving consciousness. We're taking old Tamil Pradhan consciousness and we're bringing it into the present and saying, okay, this is good. I'm going to use old stuff. You know, it's almost like taking a test and getting something wrong, and then you take the test again and you put the same answer. So when you take a test and you get something wrong, or the reaction, the outcome is not beneficial, then we know that, oh, I need to figure out what I can do to change this behavior or change this perception, so that if the situation comes in front of me again, I have the appropriate tools of body, mind, emotions to handle the situation in a new way, that I elevate it. I elevate my nature in relationship to that. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So from where do you live your life consciously? I think we've kind of mentioned that. We have to live it from that place of what is soul conscious, which means conscious from the place that's beyond the body. Because if we are always living life through the consciousness of the body, we tend to be reactive because our emotions are going up and down, left and right, good or bad. The thoughts of the past are constantly running through. So the whole object is to really begin to perceive the fact that this body is just an instrument. I am the master of this instrument. And how does this instrument work? It has a control center, which is called the brain. It has a program that comes through the mind by way of thoughts. And then it has this sensitivity device, which is called emotions and feelings. So we might even need to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of emotions and feelings? Is it to make us reactive? Is it to hurt us or keep us from moving forward? Or is emotions a tool? As thoughts are a tool, emotions are a tool. Thoughts write our programming. Emotions tell us how our program is running. So if something happens and we get emotional, emotion is saying we're not relating to these thoughts in a healthy way. It's not telling us, oh, you feel horrible. It's telling us that consciously the experience we're having, we're not able to respond to, but we're reacting. The higher the emotion, the more we're attached to the situation and not being able to see it from that place of being attached. So therefore, when we start feeling the emotions rising, right there and then, we should say to ourselves, oh, I must be stuck in body reaction. I need to step back. I need to withdraw. I need to recenter myself. It's almost like, you know, GPS, when you're going in the wrong direction, it says recalculate, recalculate. Well, consciousness is like a GPS. What do you want? What do you want the outcome of the situation to be like? So if the emotions are flaring, the GPS is saying you're going in the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. It's not saying that you need to feel bad about what you're feeling. It means you need to correct what you're feeling. You need to understand the reason behind the emotion, not to become the emotion. I think we've identified that we are not the emotions. So why do we believe we're the emotions in the middle of a situation? Instead of saying, okay, my emotions are doing all this stuff, they're sending me messages. I need to read these messages so I can respond to what my emotions are telling me and then take benefit from the situation. Because emotions are a part of our consciousness. Emotions are the part of our consciousness that are telling us what's going on consciously. So the more we can identify with emotions as a tool, the less we have to allow ourselves to go deeply in emotions and get so caught up or lost in the emotion that the emotions take our power away from us. And we end up feeling as though, I don't know how I let that happen. That's not what my intention was. Because when that happens, we believe we are the, I'm sorry? Can you repeat that?
It was just your voice echoing.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So far, so good. Any thoughts, any questions before I go to the next slide?
So basically, staying aware stage for every thought and emotion can reverse all the old consciousness to the new consciousness.
Right, because the old consciousness is the way we work is we need to take account of situations.
Yes.
So we can do it from two places. We can do it from the body and then record it as thoughts and emotions and log it into our mind so that anything similar that comes along triggers that, and we rerun the tape from the past in the present. So we project the past in the present, and there's no growth. There's no growth at all because we're not applying anything new. So when we're reviving consciousness, it becomes innovative. It refreshes things. If it didn't work in the past, why do I want to bring it into the present? That's consciousness. Consciousness is intellect.
Can I ask you one thing?
Sure.
Can you give one example for that, please? Simple example.
Okay, a simple example is in the past, someone yelled and screamed at let's say, someone yelled and screamed at me and called me names. And I got really hurt by it, by the names they called me, because people laughed at me. So now in another situation, someone comes along and they start raising their voice. That can trigger my experience from the past, and I can become reactive. I might start crying right away, or I may run away, or I may feel I need to yell back to protect myself. When we're viewing this from the place of consciousness, which is a higher consciousness, or the consciousness of being a soul, when someone starts raising their voice, initially we might feel in our belly that we're getting nervous. So right away, from a higher place of consciousness, we can say, oh, I'm getting nervous because I'm reacting to the person raising their voice. And in that moment, you can say, I don't need to react to the person raising their voice, because their raising their voice has very little bit to do with me. Perhaps they need to tell me something, but that's their emotions taking over in them. I don't need to connect to them. I don't need to think about the past experience. I don't even allow myself to. I stay present, I stay focused, and I stay on my stage. I stay in the place where I know that this is an experience I can learn from. What I'm gonna learn, that when someone yells at me, it's not gonna hurt me.
Right.
So I don't bring the past into the present, but from the past, I realized when I start feeling myself reacting to someone raising their voice, I start putting in my new data. Don't get upset. Realize that people sometimes yell. This person has all the right to yell. That's what they need to do. I don't need to react to their yelling. Because
So basically put a full stop to past and adjust to the present situation and go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
So can we use this example and say, yes, we are raising our consciousness, reviving our consciousness
Yes.
to a higher level?
Yes, because if you're no longer reacting, particularly if you don't even, eventually you won't even feel anything in your body. You won't be tense up. You know, you won't feel as though you have to cry. Some people cry when people yell. Eventually you realize this has nothing to do with you. It's about the other person needing to express themselves from that level. So my goal in this place from a higher consciousness is to hear what they need. So I'm going to maintain my stage, hear what they need, and perhaps now, because I'm not reacting to what's going on, they may stop yelling quicker, and then I can say, I really see you're very upset. And all of a sudden they're going to realize, wow, this person really heard me. So can you understand how we're reviving consciousness? We're taking a past experience and we're saying we no longer need to use that because it didn't benefit us. So why should I take my reaction from the past and use it in the present? If I do, it's telling me that I have not revived my consciousness. So now I have to either go in meditation and work on creating a stronger stage. I can journal about it and ask myself, what can I do differently? But I have to process it. Some of the greatest mistakes we do is we don't process things that are confusing or upsetting to us. We may initially want to blame the other people or circumstance, situation, whatever. But when we do that, we're giving away our power and we're not allowing ourselves to revive our consciousness. One can even say that the situation, circumstance, person who was there yelling was there to benefit us. Because they're giving us an opportunity to see if we can approach the situation from a higher consciousness. And then we can step out of the past and create a new, innovative, knowledgeable, intelligible present. So we evolve.
What if at this stage you don't realize that I have to revive my consciousness and I just go with whatever judgment I have made about the situation.
Well, sometimes that's when the best thing to do is like have an after report, in the sense that if the situation is such that it disturbed individuals, disturbed yourself or someone else, then it means that you need to look at it. It means you have to step away and say, how can I look at this from a higher consciousness? How can I look at this without blaming anyone? But more importantly, learn what I can do to prevent this situation from happening again. What responsibility that I can take, no matter who did what? What responsibility can I take that's going to make me more knowledgeable? So when someone else comes, I don't have to lose my power. Because any situation that comes to me, the way this soul look at it, is for my benefit. Even when people are yelling and screaming and call me the worst names in the world, it's for my benefit. Because the experience allows me to see if I became an authority of experience. That's what life is about. If it's just like taking a test. You know, you sit in class and teacher tells you X, Y, Z, and then the test comes and you either write the right answer or a wrong answer. Life is the teacher. The circumstances and situations are the test. So if you take a test and you realize, whoa, I didn't do so well in this situation, what can I do differently? What happened in my body? What was my emotions telling me? Sometimes I even have a conversation with my emotions. Oh, emotions, you got really upset there. What are you trying to tell me? Oh, I must be attached to the situation. And whenever I'm attached to the outcome of a situation, this is how you react, emotions. So I know now that when I start feeling you come up, I know that I am too attached or too close to the situation, and I may need to excuse myself until I can learn to create that separation. So what is the knowledge from that? I cannot have a certain discussion with this individual because I'm too close and I haven't learned how to detach from the situation. And until I can, and I'll use this word, until I can reach a place of maturity, because we are emotional when we're not spiritually mature. So that's what emotions are telling us also, that I need to be more spiritually mature, because if I'm spiritually mature, why do I have to get emotional? What purpose is it? What is it solving? What benefit is it giving?
May I follow up on what you just said?
Sure.
You mentioned attachment, so and like detachment. So for example, when we have expectations from people, is that also a place and where you become disappointed because perhaps someone did not meet your expectation? Is that also telling you that you need to step back again and evaluate why you're feeling those emotions and perhaps why you are feeling so attached to that person or situation?
Exactly. And even, why do you have expectations of them?
Yeah, how do you work through that?
How do you work through that? By realizing people are who they are. Now, someone says to me, oh, what do you think of John Smith? You know what my answer is? John Smith is who he is. It keeps me from having expectations. Right. When a person's in front of me, the way they are is who they are. I don't have to put a label on it, because as soon as I put a label on it, I am narrowing my conscious perspective. I'm holding them in a pattern. So whenever they come in front of me, I'm projecting from the program I have in my mind of them. I'm not allowing them to be who they are.
Beautiful. Makes sense.
If I may say, in other words, if you accept the people the way they are, then you run into and not expect anything, then there is no expectation, so there is no hurt or no emotions.
And what also you learn how to do, there's the new term these days, radical acceptance. When we can radically accept something, we can empower ourselves to really realize that they are who they are. They act the way they act. I don't have to react or respond to that. I don't have to allow their behavior. One of the most interesting things I find is like you can be having the greatest day of the day, and you're having fun and you're really moving and you're grooving to life, and then someone comes in and said something horrible to you. What do people normally do?
Get hurt.
React.
So what we're saying is you're willing to give up your joy because someone says something to you. Do you follow where I'm going with this?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, I mean, we have to live within ourselves. Reality is outside of us. It has no power over us unless we give it our power. So people can do whatever they want as long as they're not physically trying to hurt me. I don't have to react to it. Why should I? I'm in enjoyment of myself. You follow where I'm going with this? I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying my awareness. I'm enjoying that I can constantly be a part of reality and learn from it in every single situation, because I don't expect anything to treat me a certain way. So when that happens, it means it's like we can either live our life like we're the space within a balloon we blew in for 10 breaths, or we can live our life as a balloon that we blew in for 50 breaths, or we can live our life as a balloon that we keep blowing in and it just keeps expanding. You follow where reviving consciousness is? So when we start projecting and have expectations, we're living in that 10 breaths. Everything has to suit that 10 breath. Don't bring me anything above this 10 breath. My whole consciousness is only 10 breaths worth. You're outside of my parameters. I don't like that. So when we're reviving consciousness, when something new or experience that kind of shakes us comes along, we go, whoa, I can expand my consciousness now by becoming knowledgeable about this experience and using it not only in a way that benefits me and my growth, but the individual who's bringing it to me also. So
how would the individual know?
That it's not, is it important that you know that they know or not?
No, has nothing to do with them. It's all about
Us.
Right. So as long as you know that you've approached the situation in a beneficial way, what more can you do? Really nothing more. You were loving because you've really created a space for them to be who they are, the way they are in that moment, and then react to it. So you allow them at the same time to see themselves because you aren't pushing back. So if they were yelling and screaming and you were holding a space for them to yell and scream, they're going to become aware, oh, I'm yelling and screaming and they're not yelling and screaming back. I'm trying to push their buttons and they're not reacting. So they're in their own spotlight. The natural intelligent energy of innovative awareness. That word innovative is important. Consciousness strives to grow. Consciousness strives to evolve. It doesn't want to get stale. It doesn't want to be Tamo Pradhan. It doesn't even want to be Rajo Pradhan. It's striving to become Sato Pradhan. And the only way it can do that is to resolve situations within its sphere of understanding that allows it to approach a situation that was similar in the past in a new way in the present. That's the proof of reviving consciousness. So the natural intelligent energy of innovative awareness, which allows for the ability, So consciousness needs to be aware of its ability. It's important to get this. Consciousness wants to know what its ability is. So it wants to know its ability to handle emotions. It wants to know its ability to handle thoughts. It wants to know its ability to handle pain. It wants to know, and by doing that, It starts processing the situation in a way that it gains some benefit. So number one says to recognize and engage in all individual aspects of living life knowledgeably. Living not reactively, not sorrowfully, not any number of emotions, but knowledgeably. So the situation comes, and what was the knowledge that this situation brought to me? That's all situations are literally doing, is bringing you knowledge of where you were in that moment by the way you responded or reacted to it. That's knowledge. Oh, I overreacted. So what is the knowledge in that? This type of situation, I haven't learned how, I haven't created the ability to respond. So what is it in this situation that I have to revive my consciousness, where I have to become innovative? If you keep doing what you're doing, you know the other half of that sentence? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got. Consciousness also says life is not doing it to me, life is doing it for me, for my growth. To comprehend and synthesize, that's the key word there. To comprehend and synthesize life experience for expanding, reviving consciousness. Moving from Tamo to Rajo consciousness. Because, you know, oh, I don't cry anymore when people scream at me. That's moving from Tamo to Rajo. I don't get upset when people call me names. That may be moving from Rajo to Sato. Is everyone following me here? I mean, you can even create your own meters. You can tell where you are by the level of maturity. Another word I really love using for consciousness is competence. Am I competent enough to be in a situation and take benefit from it and not have to react to it? To comprehend and synthesize life's experience to expand consciousness through self-nurturing and evolving maturity, reaching the higher self. And one can easily call this self-love. If you love yourself, why are you giving up your happiness because someone is yelling at you? If you love yourself, why are you getting upset because someone's calling you names and it has nothing to do with you? If you love yourself, if someone is not agreeing with you, why are you getting upset? It's their right not to agree with you. They don't have to agree with you. It's their life, like this is my life. They can take benefit from what I'm offering them or they not. That's their choice. Maybe a week from today, they will go, you know what you said to me? Wow, I wasn't ready to listen to it then because I was being too emotional, but I really thought about it. And, you know, I really appreciated what you said. So my responsibility is not what people are taking from me. My responsibility is about how am I acting in all situations and what am I learning? This ability or tool allows for a deeper and more comprehension of life's experience in a way that it enables self-improvement and self-growth. There's always newness. It's almost like you get to a point, I can remember the day I said this, and then I questioned myself when I said it. I said, okay, life, bring it on. I said to myself, am I really saying this? I said, yeah, why not? All I can do is learn or fail, but if I fail, I still learn. It's a win-win. Even when I lose, I win. It's a win-win. As long as I am processing the situation in an honest way, because if I am not honest, I'm going to deal with the same situation again and the same thing is going to come up. And that's another way I can tell if I'm honest. When the situation comes in front of me again, and I'm reactive again, I'm saying, well, I wasn't truthful to myself, because if I was, I would be beyond this. So what is it going on in me that I have to pay attention to? Therefore, to be in an awakened state of consciousness, to retrieve one's consciousness, is to become fully aware of our conscious and conscient power. We must have the ability to recognize and comprehend what we are experiencing on the level and on all levels of our life. And the 4 that are listed there, what's happening to me physically? What is my body telling me in this moment? Because our body will tell us if we're reacting to a situation before our brain will. What's happening? What are the thoughts that are going through my mind now? Are these the thoughts I want to have? And if they're not the thoughts I want to have, I'm going to change them. You know, I might find myself saying, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with it. And all of a sudden say, wait a minute, from that place of revived consciousness. What do you mean you can't deal with it? If you really feel that way, don't say you can't deal with it. Say, I need some more time to take a look at this. Or although this seems hard, I choose to do it anyway because I can learn. I use this process because I almost drowned 3 times. So I had an opportunity to go scuba diving. And I first spent time processing how to move through my fear of drowning. So once I took the test, I passed the test. I passed the test in the pool. I'm sitting on the side of the boat. The instructor said, this is not the best day for anyone to go scuba diving because the swells, the boat was going up and down 2 feet, up 2 feet, down 2 feet. And I'm sitting on the side of the boat and he says, okay, lean back and fall in. And the thoughts from my past were ready to enter my mind. And the first thing I said was, don't think. I grabbed the regulator that was holding the oxygen in for my breathing. I put the other hand on my mask. I fell into the water. I came up and I said, whoa, I was afraid of this. So I learned how to process myself through the situations that were blocking my sense of awareness, and I revived my consciousness. Of course, it means learning about your emotions and how to work with your emotions, how to handle your emotions, how to empower your use of emotions. So emotions are not using you, but you are using them. And of course, spiritually, is becoming aware of the higher self, meditating, taking things into meditation. Also learning how to meditate when you're sitting, because we sit and we meditate, and what usually people do is once their seated meditation is over, they get up and they think the meditation is ended. I would say to you that when we're sitting to meditate, we're creating the stage. Once we have the stage, we want to get up and keep that stage, because that's what keeps us in that place of soul consciousness. So that when we're having the experience, we can see it from a higher point of view. Any questions?
No, that's good.
I think so. Basically, you have the power over everything, every situation, everyone. If you are stable within you, then you can deal with anything and learn from the situation instead of reacting.
Right, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to fail at times, but failing is still learning. Because once we fail, we can process why we failed. That's the most important part about consciousness. Consciousness wants to understand. It doesn't take things for granted. Oh, I just couldn't do it. Consciousness says, no, what do you mean you just didn't do it? There's a reason why you didn't do it. Let's now go look at what went on, how it went on, how you felt, what your thoughts were, and then you will understand the reason. So when the same situation comes again, you don't have to have that same experience. What we tend to do is we have experiences and we just count them like, oh, that's just the way it is. Oh, that's just the way I am. But is that true? That's giving away your power. So what are you, or what are we? Human being. So the human, the physical part, the humus, the soil, the matter by which we're made and reality is seen before us, is all part of our operation. It's the hardware, it's the physical part, it's limited, it's the outer world. It creates our personality and ego. So the next question I'll ask you, are you your personality?
No.
You really have to get that. So you understand, you really have to get that you're not your personality. What is your personality?
Labels, traits.
Yes, programming.
Yeah, which is not the consciousness, which is not that pure light being.
Right. It's you can almost say it's all the tests or all the experiences you've had recorded on a tape. And now when you're walking through life, that tape is playing to tell you how you should react or respond to circumstances, situations, people, places, or things. So it's not who you are, it's what you have experienced. The issue with that and why it's called ego, because the ego now creates this whole defense mechanism to protect us, because we protect the body itself, the persona, because it feels as though the personality is the truth. But when we've revived our consciousness, we are the operator. We go, whoa, that's my past. It tells me how I reacted to certain circumstances, situations, people, places, and things. But I am the operator. So we're on the being side now. I am the software programmer. I don't want to be a coward. I don't want to think of myself as a coward. So I have to start looking at why I'm reacting. What is the underlying reason for me dealing with things from fear? Or the other way we can do it is go into meditation and work on courage and really work on courage. Like you can sit there and define courage as for 20 minutes and I look at it like Google. So when I'm sitting there, it's like courage means being strong. Courage means being stable. Courage means being the remover of obstacles. The more I keep adding these definitions, eventually I move to that space in consciousness where courage exists. What happens? The feeling of courage comes forward and it's like, whoa, wow, I am courage. I didn't need, it was always here, but because I was clinging onto my fear, I didn't allow me to emerge my courage. So then we really allow ourselves to have that experience. We might want to wear it a little bit, even when we come out of meditation. We want to hold the energy of it, the experience of it. So when a situation comes, we can trigger it in ourselves. When we feel ourselves wanting to shrink and contract, we can go, no, I'm going to expand and hold the space. Because what is not in consciousness?
Ego.
Well, ego is, because if we perceive it, it exists in consciousness. But it doesn't mean we have to use it, because it's a flawed program. You follow where I'm going with this? So if consciousness is unlimited, because if we're experiencing in reality, it means it's unlimited. It means that we live in a duality. So it means good, bad, love, hate. Yet we can do is to learn how to define our experience, not from the extremes, but from the balance of the two. There is a spiritual ego. It's not like the body ego. It's a totally different ego. It's not there to defend oneself. It's there to help to process the experiences. It's there to elevate one's nature. So in our inner world, we spend very little time retrieving the treasures from what we are, consciousness, because we're so, go ahead.
So it is like a root sanskara?
I would say the root sanskars are courage, where fear is a learned sanskara because it comes through body consciousness, and then it puts its imprint on the mind, and it starts running a tape. And then the more we use fear, we forget we forget about courage. It's always there, but we haven't programmed ourselves with it. You follow him? Everything is a program. Every single thing we experience, or how we respond or react to it, is from the program that we have running. Yet when we revive our consciousness, we're like, oh, I'm the software programming guy. This program is faulty. It's a virus. I mean, we have in consciousness, and particularly in the mind part of consciousness, we have viruses, malware, shareware, and we also have ransomware. How many people allow other people to run their lives and have total power over them? That's ransomware. So there's a program under that allows that to happen. So when we're reviving consciousness, what we're doing is we're using, and you can say sitting in meditation with Baba, we're running Norton's or McAfee. And then we're recognizing or recognizing the aspects of ourselves that are of our true nature. We bring them up, we enliven them. What I mean by that is we have the experience of them in meditation. And the experience is so powerful that we can't forget the experience. But we have to search for these root sanskaras. We have to reclaim them. That's also reviving consciousness. That's always so. And it's like we're going into the dark with the light of the soul, and then we're shining and illuminating the space of consciousness. Say, oh, there is courage. Oh, there is more love. Oh, there is understanding. Oh, there is compassion.
Tyrone, would you also say when it comes to consciousness, it's about, because we do live in a dualistic world, that it's about balancing that energy? So really coming from a neutral place?
Exactly.
So you're not judging, right? That it's good or bad. It just is.
Right. I mean, the ultimate aspect of consciousness is really recognizing the truth. So we have to, and what I say to myself a lot is I have to get out of my own way. And what I'm saying is I have to remove body consciousness to the side so I can address this from the place of the consciousness of the soul instead of the consciousness of the body. I remember one day I was walking through the kitchen and I stopped in mid-step and I pointed to thin air and I said, Tyrone, I finally get you. And in that moment, I realized that consciousness, realized I had to be responsible for Tyrone. Because without me being aware of and supporting Tyrone, he's going to be reacting to all kinds of things because of the programming from when I wasn't aware that I was a powerful programmer in Tyrone's life. Tyrone needs me. So we all need to revive that aspect of our consciousness. Otherwise, it's like going through life blind and running this program that's taking us where we don't want to go. And, you know, this iceberg pretty much expresses it very clearly, you know, that the conscious part of us is very small and it's really based on 5 senses in the mind, thoughts, and emotions. So it's about physical reality. And, you know, we haven't even talked about reality. That could be a conversation in and of itself because we create our own reality. We all create our own reality. We interface our belief systems based on what we hold in our mind, and we project it to what we call Maya. So Maya is our projection into what the neutral aspects of matter that come to us in the form of experiences, and then we label those experiences and create a backlash, or an experience from it, and then we determine if it's good, bad, or indifferent. But in and of itself, reality doesn't have any effect. It's how we perceive reality that creates the effect. This is the bottom line of what we're talking about. Why will you choose to perceive things in a way that hurts you? Why do we give our power away in a way that makes us unhappy? Why do we attach to things that end up controlling us? What for? So when we're talking about reviving or retrieving consciousness, and what meditation is really about going into the lower part there, into the submerged part. That's where our sixth sense is. That's where all the knowledge of the intellect that we may not be conscious of all the time exist. That's where intuition flows from. So what we want to do is not get stuck in the limited aspect of the past and use the past as evidence of who we are or what things are, but derive the knowledge from it through our processing of the experience, so that when a new experience comes, we have adequate awareness of what's actually happening, and then we can grow in a mature fashion based on that. So the new experience is like a test. Okay, did you get it the last time? Did you process that in a way that you know that if you handle it that way, or if you're letting those same feelings come in the way, or if you're letting attachment come in the way, that actually you're saying, I don't love myself because, and I'm being kind of blunt with this, because I'm holding on to something that I know is not going to benefit me. Make sense?
Yes.
So the whole thing here is to grasp the entire aspect of it. The experiences that are happening on the surface are the experiences that we want to take into the subconscious mind and awaken the things from the experience that we're going to change the programming from the past. So when a new experience comes on the conscious plane, we can take the information from the past and intuitively know what we need to do to resolve it.
So is your being operating from a subconsciousness place or the consciousness?
It becomes conscious. That's the whole aspect. It becomes conscious. I mean, how often do you talk to yourself throughout the day? Instead of I mean, we tend to let our programming run. It's like, you know, on our laptops and computers, we have things running in the background all the time. What we do in life is we go along, but we have programs running in the background. So when something happens, that program that's running takes over before we can respond. So if we don't start saying, I need to talk to myself, so as I'm talking to myself, I'm reprogramming myself. I have no reason to be afraid. I know the last time I acted afraid, but I realized there was nothing afraid. So I'm not going to be afraid now. Even if I feel fear, I'm going to do my best. And then if I'm not successful, I'll say, well, you know what? I really didn't achieve what I wanted, but at least I got much further than I did last time. That's really good. If we're not talking to ourselves, then that old program is going to come in and it's going to become more embedded. So we have to keep the old programming from becoming embedded by constantly reinserting what we want, the new program. Now, this is what I want. No, this is what I want. This is what I am. This is what I thought I was. I thought I wasn't able to handle it. I'm still kind of running on that program, but I know I can handle it. If I take my time, if I breathe while I'm going through this, if I check in with my body and don't get so tense. If I get tense, I know I need to stop for a while. And you follow where I'm going with this? I process my way through my difficulties. I just don't throw myself in there and go, change it, change. No, I said, no, I need to go step A, check with my body. What is my body telling me? Oh, my emotions are good. So what do I need to do? How is my breathing? So it really allows me to be present. When I'm checking these things, I can't be thinking of what's going on in the past. I bring myself into the present and I open up my higher awareness because it's the one that's keeping me in the moment by giving me an exercise that's allowing me to stay focused.
I have a question.
Sure.
So on this slides, you're saying consciousness and awakening into a higher consciousness.
You can even say super consciousness. You can even say God consciousness.
or is it something called superego?
You can call it superego, but I tend not to, because when people hear the word ego, they want to put a negative connotation to it. But the ego is not negative when it's beyond body consciousness.
So the following question is that how do we know that we have attained the higher consciousness level, and what are the symptoms telling us that we have attained that level of higher consciousness?
I would say the amount of joy in your life, the amount of love in your life, the ability to have compassion for the self, to the big ability to forgive, when we stop blaming, when we take responsibility for our actions, even if it wasn't something we initiated, but we take responsibility for the way we've handled it. When we realize that life is really, everything that's going on around me is me. Because it's in consciousness. It's my perception of it. So I need to take responsibility for it. So when things are going, what I'm working on is when things are at their worst, they're at their best. Because when things are at their worst, I know I'm being brought into a new situation that I can process and grow from. If everything's always good and smiling and happy, I'm not growing. I can appreciate that. But the reason I tell myself when things are at the worst, they're at their best, because then I move to a place of acceptance. I don't say, this is good and this is bad. I say, it's all good, because I know that I have the ability to revive consciousness, to process it in a beneficial way for me and the circumstances in the situation. So not only am I growing, but the vibrations that I'm sending out now are affecting the atmosphere in the world in a different way, because I'm being more loving, I'm being more compassionate, I'm being more forgiving. I'm seeing the beauty in everything. So also I'm changing my perception of life. That's the higher consciousness. And I go, oh, that's horrible. I hate that. No, I don't hate anything. What for? It is what it is. If I hate it, it's because I'm holding hate inside of me. I'm the one who's manifesting the hate, not the thing. If that's how you know you're in that higher consciousness. And then joy, you become childlike.
So is it another word for it is you're experiencing the emotion in more awareness state of mind?
And you can say it's bliss, an aspect of bliss, where you don't have to qualify what things are. You just appreciate the value that it brings to you. Then everything is bringing you value. So life is making you rich in experience. I'll say that again. Life is making you rich in experience, and you become an embodiment of your experience. So you become a master of experiences. So when something comes, you don't look at it as bad or as good. You look at it as an exercise in growth.
So fundamentally, the emotions stay very much in place. The nature and the experiences of those emotions makes the difference and qualifiers as consciousness or higher consciousness.
Yeah, because the emotions are just a tool. How we use the emotions alive. We have to revive the consciousness within the emotion. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Because if we're getting really upset, the consciousness in the emotion is saying, there's something about this you don't understand. It's not saying you're getting upset. It's saying there's something in this you don't understand. If we're crying, it's not saying, oh, look at you, you're crying. It's saying, oh, you're taking hurt from this, or you're taking sorrow from this. What is the hurt or sorrow? So the emotions is just a tool to tell us our relationship with the experience before us. We're not to become the emotions. We're not to go into the emotion and get caught up in it and then even give our power to it. Oh, I'm so sad. I really don't like that. That was so bad. And on and on and on and on. So what we're doing is we're putting our energy in, our conscious energy in the emotion, and we become the emotions. Then we start telling other people about it. So we keep building it and building it instead of saying, oh, wow. Wow, I really reacted to that. What is that telling me? What can I learn from my experience of those emotions? That's what we need to do. Then we keep the power and we say, thank you for emotions. Thank you, emotions, for letting me know that I got angry because I had expectations. So now I know if I don't like this feeling of anger, which I don't, I have to stop having expectations. So every time I feel myself getting angry, I said, whoa, what is the expectation I'm having here? All emotions are telling us something. Emotions are a code for our relationship with what the emotions are mirroring, are echoing back to us. Make sense?
It does.
It's practice, but you know what? When we start doing this, we go, whoa, I must really care about myself because I'm taking the time to pay attention. I'm taking the time to be aware. I'm taking the time to revive consciousness. So I can experience the joy within life.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Would you please repeat what you said about the emotions are code for?
For our relationship to the experience that we're facing.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So if we get caught up in the emotion, we're not learning what the emotions are telling us. It's like if someone comes with a message and they look like a bum, and the message says, you've won $1 million. But as soon as you see the person, you say, get out of here. I don't want you. No, I don't care. Keep it. Don't give it to me. So what we need to learn is just because the emotions come across that way, we need to take the message. And what we tend to do is to let the emotion deaden our consciousness, shut us off from our intellect. So the whole thing is understanding consciousness. So to understand consciousness is to understand your own capacity to learn from everything. That's really a full consciousness. It means I am competent. Consciousness is the most competent thing there is. The universe is created through consciousness. That's why planets circle the way they circle and keep they have their own path and everything works together because the level of consciousness that is used as the construct to create reality. We are gifted with the ability to have a brain that lets us have a functional consciousness within the reality of life. Yet we need to know that we're not the things that we're experiencing, that we are to decipher our experience, to broaden our consciousness so we can bring more truth into life and more love. So I'm going to kind of hold it here just to see if there's any questions. We have about 5-6 minutes left. Any thoughts? Any questions?
So basically we can reprogram all our emotions into the new reality.
Yes. And I'd go beyond necessarily, we can reprogram how we utilize the experience of it. We want to value our emotions. They're a tool. I mean, it's like if you take away the speedometer of your car, it wouldn't make any sense. The speedometer tells you how fast you're going. So what do emotions tell us? They tell us what range our experience is based on what we're experiencing. So we don't want to take the gauge off. We want to understand when the gauge starts going up that we need to say, wait. I have to understand that I'm acting this way because I'm either attached or I'm afraid. So what is the gift? that I have to understand why I choose to be attached. I have to understand why I choose to be afraid. So the emotions, it's almost like a sensor. You know, when you get too close to the fire, the sensor goes off. The closer you get to the fire, the more the sensor goes off. That's what our emotions are. And when we start appreciating and valuing the emotions, then we don't become emotional. We go, okay, I can feel what's happening here. Okay, I'm gonna have to process this. And once we get to that place when we start consciously working with the emotions, eventually we don't even have to stop to talk to ourselves, because we've already built a process in our thinking that when the emotion starts happening, automatically the thoughts that will help to mitigate this experience will come along naturally. We won't react. And when it first started happening to me, I kind of almost freaked out, because I said, whoa, I always react. What's going on here? I don't react anymore. It does nothing that used to bother me bothers me at least as much anymore. I let people just be, you know, like when someone says, oh, what do you think of JoJo? I go, he is who he is. No more, no less. He's no more than he is. He's no less than he is. He is who he is. Because my perception of Joe so-and-so may be different than his, hers, or whatever. So I'm not going to label them to create this preconception of an individual. So when someone else now sees them, they're going to go, oh, that's that person. No, you find out for yourself who that person is. You might find that they have great value. You may find that they don't, but that's your experience, not mine. This is the reviving consciousness. I am responsible for my space and to be respectful of everyone else's space.
So I think it is like the past situation is gone. Now the second situation comes, so be calm, fearless, and adjust to the thing and take a new experience.
Yes.
Without any.
Right, and you have to work on processing it. You have to understand the reason why the past experience was.
Right.
And what that does, it creates an intimate relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
It also allows you to be honest with yourself.
Right, honest.
And the word intimacy, into me see. So what happens, we become transparent. When we're transparent, we don't have to be in resistance, because what you see is who I am. I don't need to hide. I don't need to play games. This is who I am. Accept me. If you don't, that's okay too. That's your right. I mean, that's what I always say. It's your right. If you don't like me, it doesn't change who I am. So my value in life is really the value I carry for myself in my relationship with life.
So what did you say about intimacy
into me see.
Oh, okay.
So I am seeing into myself, and I'm having an intimate relationship with life itself also. So I see more of life because I'm not projecting onto it. So I am clearer of the truth that life is bringing to me. I'm not projecting my past and misreading the truth. So how does that all feel?
It feels great. I actually just wanted to step on here because I have to go in a second, but thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
energy,
you so much.
your
Yeah,
life.
thank you so much. Really beautiful.
It was great.
You know, after a while it becomes fun.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, I feel so elevated going into tonight, and just my energy. I'm also a Reiki healer, so it was so wonderful to feel that energy.
I could have brought a lot of Reiki into it, because each chakra is a level of consciousness.
Yeah. But I just wanted to thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for this conversation tonight.
Yes.
I wanted to ask a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Do we have time for that? Yes.
We do have a few minutes, so we can make this quick.
Okay, so I was really interested in the analogies with the computer, and I was wondering what inspired you with that, because I was thinking about it and I'm like, well, humans created a computer. So of course, I'm thinking that because our consciousness, intelligence, or whatever created that whole system, that's why it's related like that's why it's a perfect analogy. It sounds like you agree. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, life is basically is a reflection or a copy of the nature of the soul. It only makes sense. I mean, we're consciousness, so we take what we are and we project it out into life. And the computer is a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
And think of it, that the hard drives are now, terabyte.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean, you look at your watch. So we, tiny speck of light, contain unlimited consciousness. But when we go into a body, we need to have a limited consciousness to be able to derive from the experiences and to experience and to express. So that's the reason why meditation is so important too, because then it allows us to move beyond the limitation of the body and find that expansive space and then retrieve those elements that we need to bring back into the body and express into life.
Yeah, thank you. And the second, hopefully it's a quick follow-up, but how do you know when you're talking to yourself, if you're talking to the right voice or that the right voice is I think you're basically, this whole talk is about the practice of doing that. But I feel like I talk to myself all the time and I'm like, who is that? Who should I trust that one?
Oh, I look at it two ways. It's it's the higher aspect of myself, and then there's the body conscious. And I know that who is talking to who because the nature of love. I mean,
thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a time to do meditation with you? Quick one.
Do we have that time?
Brother, yes, we can do a few minutes. Why don't you guide all of us?
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Before that, you just said the inner talk. So doesn't it that when we get an intuition for something we are really seeking help or answer for, that is our inner voice, and that's what is when we are talking to ourselves?
Well, intuition is an aspect of that higher consciousness, and it's also a touching from God. It depends on how clear and open we are, and honest. That's the whole thing about honesty. So I believe we need to move forward, because we're moving beyond the time.
Thank you.
So if we just all take a minute, and we may even want to start with the breath. And every time we breathe in, we're just expanding the nature of our consciousness. We're peeling away all the noise of body consciousness, all the noise of the body. Every breath in, we're expanding consciousness and becoming more aware. And every breath out, we're letting go of the past to make room for the present. And the breath in really is a breath of silence and stillness. It awakens the capacity for understanding what is needed in all moments. It frees us from the need to carry burdens from life. Every breath in revives us and brings us into that experience of light. Not only the radiance of light, but the sense of being light. That every moment and every flow of moments, we can revive the experience and bring new awareness for our growth and maturity. Om Shanti.
Shanti, and thank you so much, Brother Tyrone, for joining us this evening and for sharing such beautiful lessons on higher consciousness and how we can revive it. There are a few questions on the chat box regarding the recording for the video. So we will be putting it on our YouTube channel. It should be posted on YouTube within 2 days. So you can go to our link. That link is also available on the chat box, and you can watch this video and also share with your friends, family. Okay, so with that, we will end this session and we will start off with our meditation, which goes on till 7:30. So feel free to stay back and enjoy the meditation experience. Thank you again, brother. Om Shanti.
Shanti.